President Mr. Rahman, Excellencies, my colleague committee members, our associate from Saudi Arabia, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar, Adab, and a very good evening to all of you. It is my profound privilege to welcome Dr. Awsaf Saeed, our Ambassador of India to Saudi Arabia, who is the eminent speaker today from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Albert Einstein has said correctly that in the midst of every crisis lies a great opportunity. COVID-19 has accelerated the digital transformation wave globally. The leaders from public sector and private sector gather to find the correct path which can lead them to growth and development. And that is the right time to think about the proper business plan. And this is the main object of the Indo-Arab Chamber of Commerce and Industry to organize this webinar series on various Arab countries. The Directorate of the Chamber has tried to bring distinguished personalities who are the right authority to guide you, share their experience about the country concerned, the potential information which will be able to motivate and encourage all of us to promote our business with this country. Our today's topic is business and investment opportunity in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a very popular country amongst the Arab world, doesn't need a formal introduction, but Saudi has an important strategic location, forming an ideal link between East and West. This geographic advantage makes Saudi an epic center for trade and the gateway to the world, giving a significant role as an integral driver of international trade and to connect to Asia, Africa, and Europe. It has the world's second largest oil reserve. It has the sixth largest gas reserve. As per SAMA, the Saudi Arabian Monetary Agency, the total reserve assets management is to the tune of $500 billion and public investment fund holds around $360 billion. In the ranking, World Bank ranking of ease of doing business, Saudi has come down to 62 position out of 192 economies of the world. For all those viewers who have joined us today for the first time, I would like to share about the valued contribution made by my chamber, especially for Saudi Arabia. We have been India's one of the most active chamber, working very closely in Saudi Arabia. We have taken active participation in more than 238 international events in Saudi. We have led about 189 business delegation to Saudi Arabia, and the chamber had played a pivotal role in establishment of SABIC India office in Delhi and Mumbai, and then Aramco office. We have signed several MOUs with the local chambers of commerce in Dammam, Riyadh, and Jeddah. In Saudi Arabia, in 2007 year, when the government of Saudi Arabia has abolished the legalization of export documentation, our chamber was pioneer in doing this attestation so that the cargo can be cleared on behalf of the exporters without any hindrances. We issue about 350 business visa letters a day. We have been instrumental in assisting 37 private sector companies of Saudi Arabia in India. Most of them are in Bangalore, and in Mumbai as well. That shows the quantum of business and zeal in India in export community. I had the privilege to work under the dynamic leadership of Dr. Awsaf Saeed when he was our Consul General in Jeddah in 2004. And we have signed an MOU with SIBN. SIBN was a brainchild of Dr. Awsaf Saeed. Whatever credit we have achieved, the success of our credit goes to only Dr. Awsaf Saeed for launching me in Saudi Arabia and to making me acquainted with the people of Saudi Arabia. Today, every year, we are the only chamber which brings out special supplement to commemorate the Saudi National Day. And today, for the first time, we are launching the digital supplement of Saudi Arabia by hands of the Ambassador of India, Dr. Awsaf Saeed, for the benefit of the business community. And this supplement will cover useful information about the India-Saudi bilateral relation, the mega city projects, and the potential opportunity in Saudi Arabia. We must have organized on an average 487 seminars on pan-India basis only to promote Saudi Arabia till date. And so from this very platform, I would like to inform you that our chamber has never faced any problem in issuance of business visa to our members. In fact, the Consul General Mumbai and the Ambassador Saudi Arabia in Delhi, they are very, very supportive and encouraging the business community here. And most of our members have been given the multiple business visa. Our chamber has been instrumental in referring to about 389 Indian companies in SAGIA, that is Saudi Arabia General Investment Authority, to open up their offices. It is indeed my profound privilege to inform you that I am honored with gratis visa from Saudi Consulate, owing respect to my contribution of bringing both the Indian and Saudi community together for promoting their business. I also feel very proud to share with you that I must have visited Saudi Arabia more than 130 times, witnessing the transformation on my own eyes. In fact, in September 2019, when Dr. Ausaf Saeed visited Mumbai, we had discussed and planned to lead a business delegation of pharmaceutical to Saudi Arabia, but unfortunately due to COVID-19, all the programs have set aside. Now about the eminent speaker today, Dr. Ausaf Saeed, an IFS 1989 batch, one of the most active, dynamic diplomat and very, very supportive diplomat. He has done his PhD in geology. He is a recipient of YGK Murthy Gold Medal from Osmania University, a competent Toastmaster. During his tenure of 30 years of diplomatic services, he has handled different areas of work. Establishment, as I told you, the establishment of SIBAN was his brainchild. He was our High Commissioner to Seychelles prior to appointment in Saudi in May 2019. He was also our ambassador to Yemen, Consul General of India in Chicago and Jeddah. Beside that, he has worked as a diplomat in Cairo and Doha. He has served as Joint Secretary, West Africa Division. Dr. Saeed is also a very good author. He has published 3 books, one on geology and 2 books on the Indian art and culture. So this was a short introduction of our ambassador, Dr. Ausaf Saeed. And sir, I'm thankful to you for coming and giving out of your valuable time when COVID crises are there. So now over to you, sir, and the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nandarajendran. It has always been a pleasure working with you for such a long time. I remember, very, very productive engagement which I had, with your chamber and under your dynamic leadership of the chamber for a long time. Especially, when I was Consul General in Jeddah, you led several delegations. There have been several new initiatives which were taken. And of course, we look forward to your continued, dynamism to take our business relationship between India and Saudi Arabia forward. And I also welcome all your participants in today's seminar. I understand close to 500 people are there, both from India and Saudi Arabia and perhaps other parts of the world. So my greetings to all of you. Suffice to say that India and Saudi Arabia, the relationship currently, they are going to a very, very interesting phase. The two countries are moving ahead as strategic partners. But if you go into the history of our engagement between India and Saudi Arabia, we know that both countries enjoy historic and civilizational contracts. People in Saudi Arabia knew about Indian business acumen, Indian products like silk, spices, and so on and so forth. People have been visiting, Indians have been visiting Saudi Arabia, particularly in the Hijaz region for pilgrimage. So there has been a cultural understanding developed, between our countries. And of course, this is all, consolidated over a period of time. And now under the leadership of our dynamic Prime Minister, and here His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the relationship has been taken to a new height. And now I think one of the important factors which is that, of course, as you also mentioned, that when there is a crisis, we also look at opportunities within the crisis. So I think COVID has, provided certain opportunities which many people have not considered before. So we will touch upon those highlights, those sectors. So for the ease of our participants, I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation. We'll go through that. And you have been sending me some questions on WhatsApp, I just saw. So maybe if time permits, if some of the people, some questions are there, maybe you can sum it up. So we'll just begin with the presentation and then, we take on from there. Okay. India and Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned, enjoy very friendly relations reflecting our centuries-old economic and socio-cultural ties. And interestingly, as soon as India became independent in August 1947, within a few months, we established diplomatic relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So that shows that even in terms of formal diplomatic relationship, it goes back to a long time. And then we had very early in after the establishment of diplomatic relationship, we had high-level exchanges of visit. King Saud had visited India, followed by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and all that. But for a long time, there was a gap. And I think if you trace the modern resurgence of bilateral relationship, it goes back to January 2006. And I have fond memories of that because I was the Consul General of India there. This was the visit of King Abdullah, after a long time as the head of state of Saudi Arabia to visit India in 50 years. But now in the modern context, I would trace it, from 2014 onwards, when the current king, His Majesty Prince Salman bin Abdulaziz, in his capacity as the Crown Prince, had visited India. And then we had a very landmark defense cooperation agreement, which was signed, and several other interesting areas of cooperation were outlined. And then all of you are aware of the landmark visit of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, in April 2016, which really, captured the spirit of our enhanced cooperation in different domains, political, economic, and security. And then, of course, culminated, followed by the Crown Prince visit. So the relationship is also hinged on a large Indian diaspora here, which is 2.6 million, which is the largest expatriate community in the kingdom. And this has been the status, always, and Indians have been the number one. And from our perspective, they have been remitting around $11 billion every year, supporting our economy. The Prime Minister's visit of 2016 was followed by as I said, the visit of the Crown Prince last year. In fact, last year we had two landmark visits, one by Saudi Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman, which was accorded a state visit status. And this was, I feel, a sharp turning point in our relationship, leading towards the strategic partnership, which was agreement which was signed during the Prime Minister's visit again last year in October. A landmark agreement. I would describe it as a landmark agreement because India is the only fourth country with which Saudi Arabia has entered into a partnership to form a strategic partnership council, which in simple terms means that between the two countries, this is the highest bilateral mechanism to engage with for all matters. And this is headed by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on the Indian side, and by the Crown Prince on the Saudi side. And then there are ministerial committees. And the leadership is committed to meet and review relationship once in 2 years mandatorily under this platform. Of course, they have been meeting regularly under different platforms like G20, many other international fora, but this is one. And there are two key pillars for the Strategic Partnership Council. One is the political, security, socio-cultural, which is co-chaired by the two foreign ministers. And then the one which is, of relevance to all the people who are participating here, more relevant is the one on the pillar on the economy and investment, which is co-chaired on our Indian side by the Commerce and Industry Minister, and on the Saudi side by the Minister of Energy. Under this, the economic and investment pillar, we have set up two joint working groups. One is on IT and technology, and another is on agriculture and food security. Third is on energy, and fourth is on industry. Niti Aayog is the counterpart body, and here is the SIPS organization is there, which is a strategic partnership organization. So they are the counterparts. Another good and important outcome of our Prime Minister's visit last year was the signing of 11 agreements in various fields, such as renewable energy, small and medium enterprises, defense, civil aviation, launching of the RuPay card, cooperation between stock exchanges, and the inclination shown by the Saudi Aramco to participate in the India's strategic petroleum reserves and many other agreements like that. You have touched upon the strengths of the bilateral relationship in your presentation, but just to reiterate some of the salient features, Saudi Arabia is the 4th largest trading partner of India after China, USA, and Japan, and it's a very reliable and long-term energy partner, which is playing an important role in India's energy security. It accounts for 18% of our crude oil requirement. We imported 41.38 million metric tons of crude oil from Saudi Arabia last year, valued at $20.4 billion. It was second only to our imports from Iraq, but now we understand that Saudi Arabia has overtaken and become number 1. The kingdom also caters to around 30% of our LPG requirement. One important thing I would like to mention here is that the kingdom maintained its supplies to India, oil supplies to India, during October, November last year, when we were celebrating Dussehra and Diwali, despite the fact that the facilities of Aramco were attacked, but there were drone attacks, terrorist attacks from, but despite that, considering our long-term relationship, there was no disruption. So we are we appreciated, our Prime Minister appreciated this factor. India's exports to Saudi Arabia were placed at $6.24 billion last year. And significantly, there was a 12% increase in our exports last year, which augurs well during these difficult times. Saudi Arabia's exports to India, rather our imports from Saudi Arabia were 26.86 billion. Of course, there was a slight decline in the imports because I think because of the less demand in crude oil and many other stuff, so this was there. But nevertheless, the overall trade was around $33 billion, which was close to what it was last year. From the Saudi perspective, India is the kingdom's second largest trading partner after China. India is the 6th major source of Saudi imports and second biggest destination for its exports. You can see the growth of India's total trade exports and all the trends which you can see 2018, 19 and 19, 20, more or less following the similar trend, but significantly higher from 2017 and 18. And this again, you would see the thing. Major commodities of exports from India to Saudi Arabia include, basmati rice, some petrochemical products, vehicles, and so on and so forth. Imports are crude oil and crude oil-related products and fertilizers and some other commodities. Now, in terms of investment, which is one of the topics of our today's deliberation, according to the Indian data, the Saudi FDI or equity in India is estimated as at US $318 million, which is actually a cumulative since 2000. In Saudi Arabia ranks 39th with about 0.07% share in the cumulative FDI investment of $470 billion in India. But according to the Saudi Ministry of Investment, there are 31 Saudi FDIs in India, which are valued at 1.42 billion. So I think the difference in the accounting system which might be leading to these differences. But if we go by the second figure of 1.42 billion, there have been major investments in India from Saudi Aramco, SABIC, some private companies like Zamil, Alfanar, and many other companies. And if you recollect, during the visit of His Royal Highness Crown Prince to India in February 2019, a promise was made about Saudi investments to the tune of $100 billion in India in different sectors. And one of the important sector in which such investment was mooted was a trilateral partnership to set up the largest greenfield refinery in the state of Maharashtra in Raigad district. It's a trilateral cooperation between Saudi Aramco and ADNOC of UAE and a consortium of Indian public sector undertakings. So this initial projected cost was 44 billion, but now since there has been some time since this assessment was made, we feel that maybe the cost has gone up. Apart from that, the remaining $50 billion, there have been exchange of presentations between NITI Aayog and SIPS organization here, where almost 100 different sectors were identified where Saudi investments could be directed. So we are in that stage of identifying the investment possibilities in India and sectors, and your chamber could play a role in identifying some projects which could also be of importance to Saudi Arabia. Any investment coming out of the kingdom should also have a concomitant benefit to the kingdom, besides also our country. So I think the projects of that nature could be identified. Another investment proposal which is under discussion is with the NIIF, where the Saudi PIF is supposed to invest around $2 billion in NIIF. Again, we are in advanced stages of discussion. Due diligence has been completed, and a cabinet decision from Saudi Arabia is awaited, to identify whether it is in the main fund or infrastructure fund or other funds which are there. So this is as regards NIIF. Significantly, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, Public Investment Fund (PIF), backed Saudi SoftBank's Vision Fund, has been investing in several countries, and also in several Indian companies, particularly in Indian startups like Delivery, FirstCry, Grofers, Ola, Oyo, Paytm, Policy Bazaar. Most recently, last month itself, many of you would have read about this, that the PIF has announced a major investment of US $1.5 billion into Reliance Jio Platforms. In terms of investments in the food sector, the Saudi Agricultural and Livestock Investment Company SALIC, which is an investment wing of the Agriculture Ministry of Saudi Arabia, has been showing great interest in acquiring equity stakes in Indian companies, and they have also taken equity stake of US $17 million in LT Foods, which owns the Dawat brand of rice. They are also keen to take equity in some abattoirs in India, and they are in touch with other companies. We'll talk more about it when we talk on the food sector. India's investment in Saudi Arabia, it is our engagement with Saudi Arabia is not one way. A large number of Indian companies which have already invested in Saudi Arabia. 476 Indian companies have invested more than $1.5 billion in Saudi Arabia. In fact, last year, the largest number of licenses which were issued by the then Sharjah, which is now the Ministry of Investment, were to the Indian companies. And these licenses are for projects in diverse sectors such as management, consultancy, construction, telecommunications, IT, financial services, and pharmaceuticals. So besides this, again, we have all the major names of India here, like L&T, Tata, Wipro, TCIL, Shapoorji Pallonji, Mahindra, Oyo, Katera, and many others are coming, to explore opportunities in Saudi Arabia. Now, I would like to identify around 13 potential areas of economic cooperation between India and Saudi Arabia. First one I feel is pharma sector, and I understand that there are a large number of people in today's gathering who are interested. Pharma and the related sectors, the healthcare sector, then agro and food security, ICT, construction and housing, engineering goods, mining, renewable energy, education, defense equipment, entertainment, hospitality, tourism, warehousing. Then, of course, we could also add to it skills development and also the MSMEs. So these are some of the areas where we could look ahead to kind of meaningful cooperation. I'll touch upon some of these sectors, and then gradually, then based on your interest of your members, we can do hand-holding subsequently so that we can do matchmaking, and perhaps an online B2B can be organized as a follow-up of this, in the months to come. So on the pharma sector, Saudi Arabia is one of the fastest growing markets in the MENA region in terms of pharma, and they cater to a total market of the MENA and OIC put together. $120 billion is the size of the MENA and OIC region, of which Saudi Arabia is the biggest one. And the market has grown with a healthy rate, compound annual growth rate of around 5%, and the current size is estimated at 8.2 billion, which was in 2018. And it is estimated that it is continuing to grow at 5% annually. and is likely to reach close to $11 billion, $10.74 billion in another 3 years' time. The contribution of Saudi Arabia to MENA region in terms of the pharma sector is around 30%, which is a significant contribution. The Saudi government had allocated 45.86 billion recently for spending on health and social development, with approximately 12.72 billion earmarked for spending on healthcare projects directly linked to Vision 2030. So it's a significantly big market, and you see on the key facts that there are the healthcare professionals. There are 98,000 doctors deployed, 185,000 nurses, then 111,000 allied health personnel, and with 480 plus hospitals, 5,000 clinics, and nearly 73,000 beds. So it's a huge sector which we should look at. And unfortunately, what has happened is that the Indian companies have not really taken the Saudi pharma sector very seriously. I recollect in my very first posting in Saudi Arabia, 96-97, I was in Riyadh as a second secretary commercial. That was the time when we had the Ranbaxy and Wockhardt used to be here. Of course, they continued to be here, but then now very few companies are really have taken the market very seriously. Now, if we really ponder over the reasons, what could be the factor and all that, if you analyze a bit. Now, I'd like to give a few thoughts on that. One is that, you see, our companies should understand that Saudi Arabia is a highly quality conscious market. So it is for those who really want to be here on a long haul and then deliver quality products, rather than thinking it as a one-time market. Then the regulatory framework is extremely tough. The guidelines issued by Saudi Food and Drug Authority, SFDA, are perhaps a combination of US FDA and MCA and other regulatory things together. So so the companies have to fulfill these guidelines, and one of the guidelines which stipulate that the drugs which are launched in KSA must have already been marketed in developed countries such as US and UK, and the manufacturing of these products should also be in the same plants from where these exports have taken place to these countries. So these are some of the things. And both the pharma companies and their products need registration. The one factor which is a limiting factor for some of our companies is that it's a pricing mechanism. The kingdom follows a system called the price reference system, which considers the price of drug in the country of origin as well as in other markets. They've created a pre-selected basket of markets where the prices are low, which means that, for example, if paracetamol is sold at 20 rupees in India for a strip or 100 rupees in a strip, the expectation here would be slightly marginally higher to be sold in Saudi Arabia. Now, this is a disincentive for many Indian companies because the cost of manufacturing, the cost of operations in India will be much lower than in Saudi Arabia. Now, to just give you an example of Ranbaxy, for example, if Ranbaxy Europe is sending its products from Europe to Saudi Arabia, they will fetch better pricing, which is comparable to what they're selling in retail in Europe, than the same product which Ranbaxy India may send. So this is construed as a strong deterrent for our Indian companies, because after all the effort, who would go for if the margins are less? We understand that some other countries in the region, like UAE, have come up with a acceptable pricing formula, which is a win-win situation for both. So we have actually raised this issue. I had raised this issue with the chief of SFDA and also with the minister, saying that there has to be some consideration given. Otherwise, this will be a disincentive. So this is one aspect. Then the re-registration requirement. First of all, new product registration also takes a little long time, 2 to 3 years for new product registration. So having done the new registrations, even after that, the foreign pharmaceutical companies require re-registering after every 5 years. So this is again one of the regulatory requirement. Third thing which could act as a barrier to Indian pharma companies is the perceived preferential treatment for local and GCC pharma companies in the local procurement. Although it is not clearly defined or this thing, but the perception is there that if you are local or if you are manufacturing locally, when I say local, not necessarily Saudi, anybody who is local. So even if South Indian companies come and set up a manufacturing plant here, they become local. So this is one thing. And then there is also a cap on company ownership when the manufacturing company is not actually present. So this is one other thing. So I think under these circumstances, the Indian companies could perhaps explore the possibility of setting up local manufacturing plants in Saudi Arabia, either through the FDI route, through Saudi Ministry of Investment. The Saudi Industrial Development Fund, SIDF, extends very attractive loans up to 75% of the project cost, and for a long period, that is for a period of 15 to 20 years repayment period. So I think there are these opportunities which are available. The market is huge. So despite the stringent regulatory framework, there are opportunities for companies which would like to come in and do business here and set up manufacturing plants. Like for instance, Aurobindo Pharma has already set up a manufacturing plant here. And so I think I would encourage other pharma companies to look at Saudi Arabia. The embassy would be very happy to connect you with potential partners and also guide you through the Ministry of Investment and SIDF for any requirement which you may have. Offline through the chamber, you can do it. And of course, we do welcome, reiterate our interest to the Indo-Arab Chamber of Commerce to lead a specific pharma delegation once things open up, after the COVID pandemic. Now, another opportunity which I foresee is collaboration between India and Saudi Arabia, both in the bulk drug manufacturing and APIs, and also medical devices. Many states in India have set up pharmaceutical parks, medical parks, and those things can be replicated in the context of Saudi. There is focus on localization in Saudi Arabia, so this would also meet the Vision 2030 objectives if our Indian companies with technology in the pharma companies with technology can look at collaborations here. Similarly, on the governmental level also, there can be collaborations. For example, collaboration from Serum Institute of India with any local company, technology transfers. These things could be done. Joint research could be another area which we could talk about. A related sector which I would like to mention along with the pharma is the healthcare sector. Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest spenders, in terms of GDP in the healthcare sector. And COVID-19 has provided unprecedented opportunities and given unprecedented focus on this sector. Though we have a large number of Indian polyclinics operational, in Saudi Arabia, like in other countries in the Gulf, but we do not have any major Indian hospital chains here. For example, Apollo, Fortis, or many others are there all over India. So I think there is a market for it because the health sector is one of the sectors which is identified for privatization. So you would not really necessarily need local partners if some big hospital chains want to come in. So this is an opportunity. Another growing opportunity for Indian hospital chains is the extended care facilities. Because of the pressure on hospital beds, several Saudi companies have been given licenses and they are operating extended care facilities in different parts of the kingdom. But for many of them, this is a challenging task because of lack of expertise and lack of medical personnel available here. So they would like to outsource this and they would like to engage Indian hospital chains, in such an activity. So this is a good opportunity for joint ventures, for extended care facility, which could be noted. Now, again, in both before COVID and now, especially after, the market for medical devices, surgical supplies, like masks, gloves, and many other things has opened up for Indian companies. And again, throughout the world, people are looking at alternate supply chains. So this is where Indian companies can take advantage of. We are also on the bilateral context exploring the possibility of the government and the private sectors both actually doing basic research in the development of vaccines, where Kingdom and India, bilateral context or G20 context, can collaborate. Another area which has emerged as an area of great potential is the telemedicine, because again, COVID is the one which has given this opportunity a new dimension because of the care which hospital medical personnel are taking, even the patients are taking. So I think if proper telemedicine platforms are launched between the two countries, this could provide a very good opportunity. Now, coming to the agro sector, this is one of the most important sectors for cooperation between India and Saudi Arabia, because like we look at Saudi Arabia for our energy security, the kingdom looks at India for its food security. And now the kingdom is looking at different ways to partner with India in this food security front. One is investment in the special economic zones, food parks, agricultural parks like that. Second is the taking equity in the food export companies. I just mentioned about L&T, and they are discussing with Alana Group and many other groups. Contract farming is a possibility which they would like to explore. In India, we do not allow foreign entities to own land. So there are possibilities if state governments or private entities have large parcels of land where farming could be done, which could be to the catering to the needs of the kingdom. In fact, such contract farming is existing in Punjab, where some leading brands of rice which are imported here, leading rice importers, are also educating the farmers into the regulatory requirement and the kind of rice which needs to be grown. So I think this would be one of the lucrative areas if Indian side can look at it carefully. On the bilateral front, this has been under discussion for a long time, but the private sector people can also look at. There has been discussion at the private sector level, informal discussion, whether there could be third country possibilities. That means many of our companies are very strong in Africa, in agriculture sector, and the kingdom has also been acquiring land in different countries across the world. They've acquired land in Australia, California. They've acquired land in Djibouti and Sudan and Ethiopia. So I think the possibilities of synergy between Indian business people who have done well in Africa and then joining hands with their partners in Saudi Arabia could be one of the opportunities which could be explored. The kingdom has identified India as a good source for commodities like rice, red meat, sugar, infant milk powder, seafood, and even fruits and vegetables. Mutual investments, I feel, in the food processing sector is another area which we should explore. Again, in setting up of agricultural parks, mega food complexes, logistic chains, many things. One of the things which are of positive nature is the short distance between India and Saudi Arabia. Just about 3 hours from some places, and some places around 4 hours or so. So if this is the case, then we should take advantage, because for perishable goods, distance matters. So this is something of an advantage. Then also the food processing techniques relating to food industry, quality control, food safety. These are all the areas where best practices can be exchanged. Saudi Arabia, there is a thriving, pisciculture, but we also have strong strengths in aquaculture and pisciculture in India. So I think this is another area where two countries can work together. One important thing of marketing, food products in India is the halal certification, which of course our Indian companies comply. At the same time, there is a market for halal certified products such as halal gelatin and all, where India is one of the biggest markets for it. So I think we can use Saudi Arabia as a gateway. Indian companies can use Saudi Arabia as a gateway for these kinds of products for the rest of the MENA and other GCC countries. Now, coming to the more talked about sector and the more in the news, the ICT sector. Following COVID-19 related measures, several Saudi companies are looking at the possibility of outsourcing at least quarter of their operations outside the kingdom. Earlier, the preference used to be for on-site work. So now, by force, it has to be, outsourcing. So this would perhaps provide us a greater opportunity for BPO. So the kingdom is also at the same time not just looking at the simple BPO operations, but they are looking at high-tech sectors, such as artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, Internet of Things, and the Vision 2030. And many of our Indian companies have expertise in these areas and high-tech areas and their applications in solving day-to-day, problems. So this is something which we can explore. Indian ICT companies can do so. Many companies, Indian companies, have done very well here, like Wipro and TCS have done very well. They have set up, all women center TCS setup, which is one of its kind here. Similarly, Wipro has set up a business center for women. So these are the examples. All these companies have done. Even in telecom, I think recently also Tata company had got a license also. So I think there are these opportunities which are existing. Cybersecurity has emerged one of the important bilateral cooperation. And there is in the recently established National Cybersecurity Authority in Saudi Arabia is very keen to engage with Indian entities and sharing their experiences. We had connected several Indian companies to Saudi Arabia in the cybersecurity. The National Forensic Science Institute, in Ahmedabad. Then there was a company in Odisha. Then many other companies which are there. So those companies which are specifically into cybersecurity, there is a great deal of opportunity, and the mission will be very, very happy to connect you to these companies. In the ICT sector, again, we have opportunities in e-commerce and IT-enabled services. They offer great potential. The digital highways to enhance higher education facilities is another platform which we need to seriously look at. I'll talk about it a little when we go on the education sector. Startups, during in the investment discussion, I mentioned to you that large amount of investments have come in the startups, from Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia provides an excellent ecosystem for startups. In fact, the authorities here would do a handholding for 2 years for any Indian company, like providing free office space and providing many other incentives, and then giving them the option at the end, whether they would like to launch the company in the kingdom, so that basically the kingdom would like to emerge as the hub of technology. So and because the population is also very young, so this also goes well in involving the local population. If you see the size of the market and the spending in the ICT sector in Saudi Arabia, it is huge. The overall spending on ICT sector in the kingdom is set to reach around $37 billion a year. So it's a huge sum of money. So spending on IT services is expected to reach 3.9 billion this year, while software spending will top about 1.4 billion. The government finance and communication sector is expected to spend in excess of 3 billion on IT this year. So this is something which we need to see. And also, other factors which we have seen is that the kingdom, apart from doing business and climbing up in different parameters, has also climbed up 40 places in the Digital Infrastructure Index 2020 to rank 27. So putting it in the 8th spot in the G20. So it's again a significant development. Then it has also moved up 15 places in the Human Capital Index. The kingdom has also moved 9 places in the e-governance development index. So I think the technology is being effectively used in different mechanisms. So I think our expertise of our companies in the ICT sector could leverage this development, and this is one of the biggest opportunities which we have in ICT sector. Now coming to construction and housing, you're aware that under Vision 2030, several major projects are coming up, such as NEOM, Red Sea Beach Tourism Project, Qiddiya Entertainment City, King Salman Energy Park, Riyadh Metro, and so on and so forth. Although, post-COVID, there is a slowdown or scaling down of certain mega projects because of reappropriation of funds earmarked for these projects in the healthcare sector. But ultimately, the construction activity would resume. In fact, we have seen that the construction activity has already picked up. In Riyadh, it has picked up, in Dammam, and even in the 2 holy cities in Makkah and Medina, construction activities have picked up. So work has begun. So it's only a matter of time when these big projects, the work would go as per the pace which was decided. The long term, there are also opportunities, because there is a long term plan for expansion of the two holy cities of Makkah and Medina, and also the Mashar region, the area where the actual Hajj is performed. So the overall target for the kingdom in the Vision 2030 is to increase the number of Umrah pilgrims coming to 15 million from current around 9 million, and the Hajj pilgrims to 5 million from the current 2 million, which would means that there needs to be accommodation facilities in these places. So there are opportunities for Indian construction companies to get involved. There are opportunities for Indian hoteliers to look at these things. Already we understand that the Tata Group is planning 5-star hotels in these two cities. So this is a good opportunity. Apart from the pilgrimage related construction and other major project related construction, the kingdom is also thinking of building thousands of social housing, which is medium cost housing for their middle class employees, and to give a boost to the home ownership segment. There is also a US $800 million mortgage deal which has been recently concluded by Saudi Real Estate Finance Company with PIF. So I think there is an opportunity there. Some Indian companies have taken advantage of this. Katera is one company. There are others which have also done it. So I think our companies should look at the possibility of housing, particularly if they come up with some innovative construction and housing technology. Now moving on to the related but other thing, engineering and manufacturing. Following COVID, as I mentioned earlier, the world is looking at alternate supply chains rather than relying solely on a single country like China. So this provides us an opportunity, and this coupled with our Prime Minister's emphasis on Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, focusing on local manufacturing and self-sufficiency. This also matches well with the Vision 2030 objectives of His Royal Highness Conference of localizing and local manufacturing. So I think this could provide a good synergy between the industries on both sides, whether we can identify some areas where it can be manufactured in India, it can be simultaneously manufactured in the kingdom. So I think our Indian companies should maintain their continuous liaison and outreach with the major Saudi firms such as Aramco, SABIC, Zamil, and Spimek, so many other companies which are there. So to do that, of course, we could do it remotely through the catalog shows, remotely through company presentations. What the mission had decided here is that there are for about 20 odd companies which are already present here. Before the COVID, we had planned that each month we would launch a group, in all its verticals. So so that plan is already there. But we can also do so of companies which are not present here but want to be there on a on a platform like this. So the chamber can take the initiative and identify 3-4 companies, and those 2-3 companies could be given an opportunity to make presentations, and we would invite the others to join the visual platform. And this thing can be done on a regular basis, so many companies get an opportunity to showcase their thing, and subsequently, of course, they can visit also when the time permits. Now, the renewable energy sector is a very important sector, for business opportunities between our two countries. One is that Saudi Arabia has become a member of the International Solar Alliance, which is a joint initiative which was formed by India and France. There is also a renewable energy agreement which was signed when Prime Minister came last year. So we have the framework of cooperation. So there is a significant opportunity for cooperation in this sector. And then, both countries have fixed targets, huge ambitious targets for converting to renewable energy in the next 5 to 10 years. So which also then we complement each other. Many companies, Saudi companies like Saudi Al-Fanar Group, Al Jamaya Energy and Water, and others have already made investments in India. So there is a comfort level there, and they have understand the potential in India. So it is a investment from Saudi to India, but there are also possibilities of collaboration for manufacturing solar cells, panels, modules, storage devices, smart meters, and all. In fact, the Saudi Energy Minister in one of the bilateral discussions has mentioned that Saudi Arabia could be one of the best places for manufacturing these products in the bilateral context. So I think we could look at this opportunity. Similarly, the Indian EPC companies may offer turnkey solutions for all renewable energy projects in the kingdom. Wind energy also offers a lot of potential between the two countries, for harnessing wind energy and export of wind turbines and so on and so forth. So energy sector, in short, is the one which we should keep it on priority. Defense, I do not know whether any members of yours are engaged in defense equipment, but nevertheless, this is an area which has emerged. It's a newly emerged area of possible cooperation between India and Saudi Arabia, starting from January 2019, when in one of our bilateral discussions at that point of time, a delegation of Indian private companies was invited, and they made presentation about their possibilities of vehicles and many other things. And subsequently, we had delegations from Saudi Arabia visit India last year, and during the Prime Minister's visit, an MOU was signed. So basically, this is an opportunity for defense companies to kind of look at Saudi Arabia, and I would urge that the people can look at this opportunity. Now, coming to tourism and hospitality. Now, this is again a very interesting area for Indians to collaborate. This is again a newly emerged opportunity in the kingdom, and it is although because of COVID there has been certain setback, but it remains an area of focus for Saudi Arabia. The kingdom had established a Ministry of Tourism in February this year. In June 2020, the government approved a specific tourism development fund with an initial capital of $4 billion. Saudi Arabia is extremely keen to capture tourism, both for domestic as well as international tourists. Here, when we say it is not just the pilgrimage, but the general tourism which the kingdom is talking about, the billions of dollars are being earmarked to develop tourism infrastructure in 38 major tourist sites which are there. Some of them are prehistoric sites. To encourage tourism, the kingdom has decided to give visa on arrival, extend this facility to 60 different nationalities. India is not in that list of 60 different nationalities, but nevertheless, we come under the category where if any Indian national who has a US visa or a UK visa or a Schengen visa stamped on his passport can come directly to the airport and avail of the visa on arrival facility. And then they can stay on for 3 months. There is no problem, and this can be for business visits, this can be for tourism, for other purposes. So this is a great facility. Since this facility was started, 500,000 people have already availed of this. The target of kingdom is to have 100 million visits by 2030. So it's a huge potential, and there can be potential also the return tourism from Saudi Arabia to India. So this is an opportunity which our people can look at. I have identified warehousing and logistics also as one of the possibilities of cooperation, because Saudi Arabia's materials handling, logistics, and warehousing market is estimated to be around 16 billion, comprising of 34% of the Middle East market. It is one of the largest markets, Kingdom has 19 major international airports and seaports. So the possibility of cooperation is there. The kingdom launched the National Industrial Development and Logistics Program in 2019 last year as part of the Vision 2030. And this is expected to inject around $36 billion in the next 1 decade in the logistics sector. So all those companies which are looking at the logistics sector in India, they can come up with this thing. Besides this, of course, one sector which is of importance is the education. Because education, Saudi Arabia has opened up education facilities, and it's trying to privatize education. So now, in theory, private entities in India, they have the possibility of coming directly and setting up educational institutions of higher learning in the kingdom. So this is a great opportunity. Our institutions are there in other GCC countries. The kingdom is a big market. So I think this is something which we could look at. Both as a direct investment project or also as a collaboration. There can also be collaboration between universities to begin with. So this is there. Likewise, skill mapping is another sector where the two countries can look at. In fact, in one of the discussions that has come up is that since the kingdom is engaged in extensive skill mapping, perhaps if we know the projection of the requirement in the kingdom for technical people in India, that is where we can actually work together. Similarly, there are opportunities for MSME sectors where agreements have now been signed between different entities. So I think the chamber, your chamber, can play an important role in all these sectors. Now, just before I come towards the end of my presentation, a couple of slides on Saudi economic outlook, how I see it. There has been a double impact on the Saudi economy. One was the impact relating to COVID, and another relating to the oil price volatility. When the year began, 2020, the oil prices were in the range of $75. Then it crashed to around 20. Then, of course, now it has recovered to around $45 per barrel. So this has led to the revenue fall in the kingdom in the quarter 1 of this financial year, 24% revenue fall, and it fell down to around 51 billion. Non-oil revenues also fell by 17% to 16.9 billion. Because of suspension of Hajj, Umrah and tourism, there was a loss of $8 billion. So generally speaking, there has been a revenue decrease, the crash crunch, at the disposal of the government. And some measures were taken to increase the revenue, such as tripling of VAT from 5% to 15%, which is expected to actually generate around $24 to $26 billion for the government, and the scrapping of the cost of living allowance for government employees, which in addition is expected to generate around $13 billion for government. There was an economic stimulus package extended, by the government of around $65 billion to support the economy, particularly the Saudi private sector. So, which has really helped the sector to go ahead. The kingdom has also launched a $178 million initiative to help the businesses in the kingdom defer loan installments due to the pandemic. Now, the outlook for the kingdom's economic recovery, is very bright because one, it has sound macroeconomic policies, very competitive cost of oil, extraction of oil. So it's not expensive to extract oil. So that is one advantage. And there's abundance of foreign exchange reserves. The kingdom's reported reserves were $464 billion in March 2020. Now, we all know that the crude prices have recovered, as I mentioned, over $45 per barrel, and the global demand has also started surging. So I think the outlook is bright. Serious measures are being taken by the government of Saudi Arabia for privatization and diversification of economy away from oil. So the sectors which have now been identified for privatization in the initial phase is water industry, healthcare, as I mentioned, and education sectors. And there will be gradual privatization in that. And this is expected to generate something like US dollar 13.3 billion or 50 billion riyals in the next 4 to 5 years. So this, again, these three key sectors provide an opportunity for us. There are projections that the Saudi economy would grow at an average rate of 3% during 21 to 24, which is nearly double the average during 2015 to 19. So this augurs well, from next year onwards. Investments are also expected to increase with the growing investor confidence and increasing liquidity rates in the local market. So I think this is a good thing. I'm also very optimistic that this should be the thing. One should not feel that there are, the COVID will take countries behind. There have been serious measures which are taken by the Saudi authorities. Lastly, are there any constraints, for businesses doing in Saudi Arabia, particularly for Indian businesses? The tripling of VAT could be, one, it may generate revenue for Saudi government, but at the same time, it would increase the cost of operations, which will become high. So the companies would have to really factor that okay, they may not be really competitive because of this thing. So they may have to factor this. Similarly, there is a tariff hike which has been announced recently, significant tariff hike on a range of products, which makes the Indian goods less competitive and expensive. So, in fact, in some cases, for example, dairy products, the tariff was 5% and increased to 10 to 15%. Some fruits and vegetables, there was no tariff at all, 0% and increased to 15%. And like building materials, ceramic, the whole range of products there has been thing. Some measures have been kept in abeyance, but if all these tariffs are hiked, then again it becomes difficult because the profit margins may reduce and things like that. So this is again one factor which is there. Then there are some non-tariff barriers, and there are some anti-dumping duties which have been implemented, imposed. So non-tariff barriers on rice, spices, meat, poultry, shrimp, milk powder. We are dealing with this, and under the bilateral mechanism, there are issues which have been resolved. There are issues which are ongoing. There are correction measures which needs to be taken at our end. All these are there, but nevertheless, I'm just flagging that these are the issues. Similarly, some anti-dumping issues, duties on ceramic tiles, and most recently on steel, imposed by GCC, not by Saudi Arabia, is a matter of challenge. Now, the one which concerns the Indian companies is the short-term work visas. Previously, especially the IT-related companies used to get what is known as short-term work business visas, where people used to come for 2 months, 3 months, complete a target, complete a project, and go. Now that had been stopped because that was under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I guess. But now there is some new mechanism needs to come. Because of that, there may be an issue leading to manpower challenges. And also, I think there is a country cap on visas. That means even if an Indian investor comes through the Ministry of Investment route, then they cannot get the number of people they require. So it becomes, the companies give a bid based on their own strengths. They cannot give a bid based on requirement of recruiting manpower from other countries. So this is a challenge which we need to really keep in mind. But other than that, Saudi Arabia is one of the most easiest countries to do business with, and I've been following this myself since 1995, and you have been also dealing with this. So I think there's a tremendous opportunities. The mission would be very, very happy to be of any assistance to your members. So with this, I thank all of you and look forward to any questions or anything which you would like me to respond. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. Warm welcome to our Thursdays of Learnings and Exploring Opportunities in Newer Countries. I am Sumit Govind Sharma, a proud committee member of the Indo-Arab Chamber and the CEO of Group MRP India Private Limited. I, on behalf of the Chamber, would like to extend a sincere gratitude and thanks to Ambassador Dr. Asif Saeed. Sir, we are grateful for the excellent sector-wise presentation. It provides us with huge learnings. We are confident that your expertise and experience will help all of us. On the personal behalf of Rahman Sir, our Chamber President, and all important members of SBIM from Saudi Arabia, a special thanks to Ambassador Dr. Asif Saeed. Last but not the least, Madam Sunanda Rajendran, the Executive Director of our Chamber, for her sincere and dedicated efforts as always. A special thank you note to the team from the Embassy of India at Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Our next webinar is on the 30th of July, 2020 at 3 p.m. The topic is export documentation. Once again, we are thankful and grateful for all the support. Signing off, Sumit Govind Sharma.
I would also like to mention that the digital version of your supplement was sent to me yesterday. And of course, earlier also, last year you had presented me the last year supplement. It is a top quality supplement which has been prepared by the Chamber, Indo-Arab Chamber of Commerce. So it's my proud privilege to digitally launch this. Maybe that could be